The Celtic Exchange, a fresh insight on Celtic Football Club.
Celtic's 100% record for 2022 remains intact, with wins in the league over Aberdeen and in the Scottish Cup against Raith Rovers, meaning we're now 8 wins from 8 in the calendar year so far. This week we step back into European action with a Conference League tie against Bodo Glimt as the challenges continue to stack up and Ange wouldn't have it any other way. This is episode 57 of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino, and this week I'm joined by James and Chris to cover all things Celtic. James, another 7 goals scored in those 2 games I mentioned against Aberdeen and Raith Rovers. Are you pleased with how it's all ticking along?
Yeah, tricky ties. Cup ties are always tricky. It could be a banana skin and all that kind of stuff. So, first half poor, dealt with it in the second half in the next round. The Aberdeen game, I thought, showed a really interesting side to Celtic that they can really dig in for the win as well as blow teams away. That was a tough game, and they really gave it all they had to pull the 3 points back. Yeah, I think similar to Hearts as well, wasn't it? It was just showing that resilience. It can't always be attacking and free-flowing football, and sometimes you've got to dig deep. Yeah, and that's all part of what they train for. They don't just train scoring goals. They're a good defensive team as well. They've got a lot of resilience and they've got mental strength, which, this time last year, mental strength we spoke about a lot. The team didn't have it, and this team has it in spades. Yeah. Chris, welcome back to the show. It's been a while. What's your take on how everything's going just now?
Thanks for having us back, Tino. Good to be back. Delighted, absolutely delighted the way things are going. A lot of pressure on us the past couple of weeks in terms of the fixtures that are coming up. The game against Raith Rovers has its own complications as well. A lot number of changes coming in can affect your kind of the flow of the game, and again we've seen that the first half especially. But no, I think it's coming along nicely. And Jamie made a good point there as well about resilience. Again, it's Celtic. We are going to be under pressure at certain points in certain games, and it's good to see that. And again, it's just the kind of night and day for where we were this time last year. So I hope we can just take it a game at a time, basically, when this comes along, and hopefully we can continue that momentum. But it's good. It's going good at the moment. From breaking to Stataville top to bottom, basically, you're going to have the conversation for this time last year, or last time it was probably on, was about issues from up above to basically down below, and the big man has got it right so far. So long may that continue. Yeah, I think the last few times you've been on, it's been grim times. So glad to have you on in sunnier climes.
You've been on since Ange, haven't you?
I have been on since Ange, but again, it was early days in Ange. It was finding our feet in terms of this transition, and a lot of bodies coming in and out, and what the right structure would be behind the scenes. And it was just great. As I said, it's just so encouraging to come on and actually have kind of positive chat about things. And the big man's a breath of fresh air. So, but again, at the same time, I'm trying not to get carried away too much, because, as I said, we're in this transition at the moment, and things are absolutely fantastic in terms of where we were then to where we are at the moment. Yeah, so again, we're on the right road.
Yeah, you don't want to get carried away too much, but Paddy, who often sits in that seat, he's banging the quadruple the drum for that. So we'll see. Just before we get started today, a quick reminder that you can now watch our weekly shows on the Celtic Exchange YouTube channel, as well as continuing to listen on all the usual podcast platforms. If you are watching on YouTube, please take a minute just now to subscribe to the channel by clicking the red subscribe button below. And while you're there, click the thumbs up to like this week's episode. These small things go a long way to helping us do what we do, and are really appreciated by all of us here at the show. James, what we'll do first, you and I were at the Raith Rovers game on Sunday, so let's get the show started with a short recap on that one. What was your take on the game in general?
Yeah, a bit like during the week actually. It was a game of two halves, much like Aberdeen was, but it was ourselves that didn't come out of the traps, like Aberdeen didn't come out during the week. As Chris referenced, a lot of changes. It can upset the flow, but that's how this is always going to be under Ange. There's going to be multiple changes almost every squad. Look at Juranovic against Rangers. It's close to a 10 out of 10 performance you'll get from any player in any game. Motherwell, the game after, dropped. So there's going to be changes every game, and they've got to just get their heads right for that. There's a bit of having to raise your game for Raith Rovers, which is unfair. You've got to respect the opposition. And I think a lot of that just combined to quite a lacklustre performance first half. And, they get rocketed at half time. They came out, they sorted it. Jota was a big difference when he came on in 55 minutes, and they went on to win comfortably. But yeah, we've got to just keep the focus.
Yeah. Chris, James mentioned Juranovic, and there's other key players that didn't start, and some didn't feature at all on Sunday. So no Juranovic, McGregor, Greg Taylor, Matt O'Reilly, Carl Starfelt. How do you feel the first half played out?
the way I expected it to go, to be honest with you, my thoughts on it were that these players have got to come in and hit the ground running, right, for Ange, right? They've got to come in and they're expected to do, again, they need to earn their place, right, first and foremost, and that's what Ange is expecting of them, right? And there might be complacency sets in because it's Raith Rovers, but you're coming in and you've got to play this style and you've got to play in a certain way Big Ange wants you to play, right? And it speaks volumes, maybe, potentially, of certain individuals that whether or not are going to be cut out for it or not. That's what kind of basically stood out for me. And I think that there needs to be a realisation within probably these individuals and probably the coaching staff as well, that maybe these individuals are not going to be, it's going to be the standard going forward, and it's probably the expectation going forward as well, is to try and determine what happens with these players as well. So I think, as I said, I kind of expected that, and I'm going to come out and say it. Mikey Johnson.
Early.
Sorry, I'm going to come out and say it right away.
Why are you breaking my heart on Valentine?
Dave likes to soften into the Mikey Johnson chat.
I know. Listen, again, I'm probably an advocate of Mikey Johnson as well. Sorry, that again, I was wanting him to. I've seen flashes of brilliance in the past few years. I think Sarajevo, and again, these kind of instances where you think, no, we've got a player in our hands here. You're hearing feedback from Damien Duffs in the past as well about what they expect of him as a player as well. But it's just not working. And when he's coming into a game like that yesterday, here's your opportunity. And the same again, I'm going to throw James Forrest in it as well. Jamie, I know you're getting your opinion on James Forrest as well, but I think that James Forrest has a part to play. But again, there has obviously been a decline over the past few years in terms of his kind of his stats that's come out recently as well. And again, it's just natural, again, his age and the position he plays. But getting back in terms of my point, as I said, it's the way I expected it to go, and it's unfortunately, that's, as I said, we need to probably have a look at it as a club as we go forward. So yep, changes come in. Jota, I think, is a superstar. Comes in, completely changes the game, and whether it be creating, bringing players into the game, creating chances as well. So that's the way I thought it would have probably, unfortunately, would have played out. Again, it was a bit stagnant, and again, you're just wanting you'd want these players to do well, but I kind of didn't transpire that way, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're right. Hard to disagree with pretty much all you're saying there. We spent a bit of time, myself, James and Sinky, on the post-match show last night, covering various points, and we spent a fair bit of time on Mikey Johnson, so I don't want to dwell too much. But I do think it's a puzzle for Celtic, and it's a puzzle for Ange, because in terms of the fundamentals, he's young, he's talented, he's pacey, he's tricky, he's got a lot of good assets, he's got a lot of the assets that would make for a good footballer, and some of it's just natural born talent. But there's absolutely no doubt that we're not getting that out of him just now. I wonder if Ange himself would see that as a challenge for him to take on board and say, I'm an experienced coach, leave this with me. I didn't see it, but by all accounts, he gave Johnson a hug as he came off the park. He was quite upset yesterday. Maybe again, just another sign of his type of man management.
Would be, yeah.
And I know a lot of people have written Mikey Johnson off, and that's fine. Everyone's got their opinion on it. I'm fully behind Mikey Johnson. I think he's a talent, and I just think there's more to it than just football stuff as well. I think we've got to put our arm around this kid and see if we can get the best out of him. And I do think there's a player there, but also, James, I was quite against him potentially going on loan. Maybe now he just needs removed from the Celtic environment.
Out of the pressure.
For his own sake, go and play somewhere where you don't need to win every week. Every time here's an example, right? Every time he gets the ball, people are now almost willing him to make a mistake so they can say, I told you so. And you hear people around you in the stadium with that. Rio Hatate is a fantastic footballer, and he's going to be brilliant for Celtic. See the amount of misplaced passes he had in the first half yesterday, booting it out the park and overhitting and different things. Whereas Mikey Johnson, I'll let you in a second, Mikey Johnson in the first half has a brilliant effort on goal within a few minutes, jinks in and out of 3 or 4 guys and just hits it over the bar. He then plays a really, really intricate through ball with outside his boot. You may not remember it, and some people don't want to remember it, but he's doing lots of good things, but it's all the bad stuff that people are picking up on. Yeah,
I know, I totally get it, right, because you can hear it and you feel it at Celtic Park when you're going there. It's just, I just feel as if, I'm going to speak for myself personally, and I think this is the same opinion that a lot of people, we want Mikey Johnson to do well, but we're just not seeing it, and we're getting frustrated by it, because he is one of our own, he's coming through the academy, we're getting frustrated with it. But I think you're absolutely right. I think he needs to take out of the equation, because he's probably putting too much pressure on himself. The Raith Rovers are doubling up on him yesterday. It's going to be difficult for him as well, especially low confidence to actually, again, I'm not going to speak ill of Raith Rovers. It doesn't matter who you're up against. Playing against taking 2 men in front of you, it's going to be difficult. So I think you need to take him out of the environment, but also getting back, you made a great point about Rio Hatate, and I'm going back to Tynecastle when he was fantastic. the game against Aberdeen and yesterday as well. It gets to certain points in the game, I feel as if with Rio Hatate as well, you've got to maybe take him out of the equation, if that makes sense, because the misplaced passes become more and more and more. And I just feel as if as well, again, that'll come. Ange's talked about fitness again, he's nailed it. He said that there's more to come with this guy, and he will be a fantastic player, but just wanted just to say that as well. So I think, again, you're absolutely right. Again, you're not far wrong there, Tino.
I thought it was interesting on Hatate, actually, that Ange saw fit to give him the 90 yesterday, because I think the boy must be shattered.
I think that was a punishment.
We all know that he's had his full season there in Japan, just finished there early to mid-December. He's moved to a new part of the world. He's hit the ground running with some big performances and big goals. Hearts and Rangers, the obvious examples there. He must be tired, but Ange's, and this will be with the support of the sports science team, for whatever reason they'll say, get 90 minutes in his legs, get him up to speed. And I think, I can't wait to see a fully fit and firing Rio Hatate. So it was just an example of someone who, it's all, perception in the eyes of the fans, and people now take forward the narrative that they've kind of dug their heels in on guys like Johnson. Hatate at the moment, his stock is here and he can do no wrong, even though right in front of your eyes he is doing some wrong. Whereas Mikey Johnson, everything he does, even the good stuff, just gets ignored. I'm not going to go on any more about it. I said I wouldn't, and I've gone for a few minutes already, but I do think, James, and you made the point, a new environment may be best for Mikey Johnson, and I really, really hope he proves me right. I think he's a real talent, and I hope he comes back and brings some good stuff.
All it is, and it goes for any Celtic player, whether we're all fans of them or we're not fans of them, we want them to succeed, because
not everybody.
Their success means more success for Celtic. And with Mikey, it's basically, here's where we are and here's where we need to be, and what's the best way to get you there? What's the route? Is it staying at Celtic? Is it going out on loan and coming back? Whatever it may be, and take that route, because at the moment for me, the pressure's as much as the issue as anything else.
I think most decent and decent-minded Celtic fans do want him to do well, and then there's just all the sniping as well that you see just from Egypt, to be honest with you. So if you've got a fair-minded opinion on Mikey and he's not for you, no problem, but you know where I stand.
So where are you at? This isn't that you're double down on Mikey, it's like the 18th of that.
I'm quadrupling down on the young man, and I stick by it. Anyway, moving on to other things. Ange was very vocal in his post-match comments. He really wasn't too happy with that first half that you mentioned, Chris. What I'm going to do, I'll read out a couple of quotes here first, and then I'll come to you for your thoughts on these. So I think this was from Premier Sports, his interview. Ange said, "We've got certain standards about how hard we want to work and the kind of football we want to play and how quickly we want to move the ball. And I just thought in the first half we were taking too many touches, we weren't working hard enough off the ball. And whilst we're comfortable, that's not what I want us to be. I don't want us to be comfortable." He was then asked if the squad had surpassed his expectations, and he nipped that in the bud right away, James, by saying, "Nowhere near my expectations. As we saw in the first half today, we've still got a lot of work to do." I think, Chris, that'll be the message internally to the players too, won't it? He won't be, of a mind to allow any sort of complacency to kick in.
Absolutely, don't rest on your laurels. It doesn't matter who you're playing against, and that's the great thing about Ange with me. It doesn't matter who it is. You're going out here, and when you pull on the hoops, this is what the expectations are. So don't let it drop, or again the performance levels drop one bit. So it's great hearing it. So long may that continue, regardless who it is. So we need that again, especially over the next couple of weeks. It doesn't, again, as I said, every game's a cup final in the league anyway. But as I said, it doesn't matter if it's Livingston at home, St Mirren, whatever. This is where again where we've dropped points, where we've found it difficult in the past. We need to be at that level all the time.
Yeah, I think a first half like yesterday, James, against somebody like Raith Rovers, where you're maybe not going to get punished in the way you might get elsewhere, certainly in Europe, which we've got to look forward to this week. It's maybe not a bad thing that there was a wee bit of complacency crept in, and Ange's got a great example to say that's enough of that nonsense.
There was a couple of things on that Stan Sport podcast, recommend it to anyone. It's basically Ange and the Aussie media having a good chat this morning, and it's what you said about not getting punished for mistakes. He spoke about getting beat 4-0 off at Leverkusen at home, and he said he was telling them, we actually played well. We did a lot of things that I was really happy with, but they punished us for our mistakes, and we didn't punish them for theirs. That was the difference between getting any result there and getting beat 4-0. So we weren't punished there, and I just think he's looking at the team yesterday, not getting punished, but the complacency that creeps in. The second part of that podcast this morning was, I was expecting, and showing my ignorance, that we might have an easier game on Thursday night against Bodo. It turns out they're a 4-3-3 Ange ball type game. It's going to be really high tempo from the start. So having that quieter start to the game yesterday and rubbing out that complacency, nipping it in the bud, because they could have walked into a disaster on Thursday if they'd taken that attitude yesterday into Thursday's game. So all the better to catch it, not get punished for it, and learn from it.
Yeah, and it's good to get a bit of insight into Bodo as well. We've got a wee section later on in the show where we'll certainly cover that. But it is interesting because a lot of us, myself included, have done a wee bit of digging. It's hard to know what to expect, and you wouldn't doubt that Ange and his backroom team will be doing all the work there. There's also some other Ange quotes doing the rounds, Chris. You might have seen this. Lots have on Twitter. These ones are far less polite, I'm afraid. So apologies to my mum, who I know tunes in. During a fairly passive spell of passing during the first half, he could be heard bawling out something along the lines of, hell, sake, stop passing it back. And as much as he's got this nice guy, cuddly Uncle Ange type thing, you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side, would you?
No, definitely not. I think you can see that without even he's shouting and swearing at the side of the park. Again, the big man was not happy, and you don't want to get on his bad side as well. Getting back to my point, I was just talking about the St Mirren's and Livingston's equivalent in terms of that kind of comfortable play. Let's just say in terms of that, we'll just go back away, nothing's really happening. Ange knows that, again, in order to break these teams down, who have had difficulty in the past, it needs to be high intense, it needs to be high pressing, because what these clubs like Raith Rovers done yesterday, they pressed in the right areas and forced us back, and it's comfortable for Celtic just to retain the ball and pass it back, so they're pressing in the right areas, whereas Ange is saying, take the risks, press, it's got to be high tempo, so that needs to come natural to you, rather than think to yourself, you'll just create that wee moment of magic. Celtic need to be at that level constantly, and it's great that the big man's doing it. So if you don't do it, you're going to feel the wrath of the big man. So
yeah, Celtic could have cruised to a very comfy 1 or 2-0 win against Raith Rovers by just bouncing about centre back to left back to goalie, being patient, and you'd have grabbed a couple of goals, no worries. And I think Angie's seen that and says, F that, I don't want that, and this is what we hammer into you day in, day out at training, and you must carry this out, whether it's Raith Rovers or whoever.
See that mentality, but that mentality is probably something that we've seen in the past, right? So I'm going back to say 10 years ago, right? And you look at us, how we've no won trebles and that years gone by, right, as well. Look at the decisions we've got when it's been 1-2-0 against some team, or 0-0 or 1-0 against these teams. And you've seen it yesterday, maybe again 50-50 with Carter Vickers with a penalty. They score a penalty, get a penalty kick, and they score it. Or right up, again, it could be right under pressure, and it creates its own problems as well. So Ange sees that, and Ange knows that, do you know what? Nip that right in the bud. See this again, see if this dips, you're going to get a kick up the backside to make sure that again you're again operating at these levels, that the standards that he sets.
I remember, and I think there's a few examples, but I remember Morton beat us 1-0.
That was example.
Time.
Exactly.
Might have been Dougie Emery.
Yep.
And it was that kind of game where the whole feel around the club, whether it was Lenny or anyone else, there was just a bit of complacency and a bit of lethargy around these fixtures. And the way Ange speaks in his pre-match about all these games is he's just not having it for himself or for his players. And he's always very respectful, and good on him for that, whether it's Raith Rovers or somebody at the very bottom of the Scottish football pyramid. He will always give, the other team the respect that he will put out his team to play, as hard and work as hard as they do, whether it was a Champions League game. And I think that's the mindset that's got to be around the place. You can't pick and choose when to turn up. I mean, on that very note, James, we've discussed Mikey Johnson and a bit of James Forrest, but the guys like Stephen Welsh and Liam Scales, do they need to do more when they're given a chance in this system of Angie's?
I thought Welsh had a decent game. I thought he was showing a lot. I thought he was bringing the ball out a lot. It just ended up coming back to him a lot. So I think I was more guilt in the midfield than Welsh. Welsh was trying to take it forward.
Is decent enough though. So a decent game is fine, is decent enough. There was an article I read earlier on about there was some balls on to Hatate, but he's turned out and played the safer ball. So when you're just watching that in the context of the game, you go, he's kept possession, that's fine, we're recycling, start again.
Yeah.
Does he need to do more?
Thinking back to the game, and you've got a kind of a decent fan's eye view, you're raised a bit so you can maybe see a bit more than being at ground level. But I remember thinking on several occasions, there's a ball on there and you're kind of shouting for it to go and it doesn't, it goes back and it gets recycled. Recycle's not the worst, but only do it when you have to, rather than as the kind of fallback.
Yeah, I think, just watching as a fan, recycling, sometimes it's necessary, but sometimes it is that passive thing which really angered Ange yesterday. And as a fan, you're maybe going, that's all right, we keep possession. And Ange he's just not having that. He wants you to drive and be relentless, every time you can.
But you see, as Jamie's saying there as well, Ange sees that in terms of seeing that passes on, so why are you not doing it? Why are you not taking that risk? And I think Stephen Welsh was guilty of that sometimes. I think a lot of the time it was. I think there was a lot of recycling going on. It ended up going back his way. And I think in terms of percentage stats, Stephen Welsh came back in terms of pass completion as the highest in the team yesterday. Right. So, but as I said, there's a few times when I clocked it myself yesterday, it's on, and you can tell Ange Postecoglou's looking at it going,
he knows it's on.
Get it done, do it, take the risk. Because I think with Carol Starfelt, I think you find Carol Starfelt takes it on. I think there's sometimes we look and go, that's a bit tight, but he does it very effectively. And again, he actually gets that ball moving very, very quickly, even though it doesn't look.
I know the very type of situation you're talking about, and I think Starfelt is happy to take that risk because his manager's telling him to do it.
Yep.
And if he takes it, it doesn't work out. From different articles we've read and videos we've seen recently, Ange will say, "No problem, Carol Starfelt. I've asked you to do it. Let's kick on." What's your take on that?
We mentioned it about a month ago. I think Starfelt was maybe getting a wee bit tight because the media was just trying to find a thread to pick on, a thread to pull on. And I said at the time, one thing he is brave, and getting sniped and all that stuff. He still comes out, he still makes the risky ball, and that's because Ange just told him, "I'll never give you a hard time for that." So what's Welsh not picking up in training? What are the other players not picking up in training to think, I better not take the risk, because Ange's got their back?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a great question, because if you're Stephen Welsh, what do? Your first priority when you come in is, I don't want to make a mistake.
Don't make a mistake. I'm
not playing much football, but Ange is encouraging you to go and make that mistake or make that higher risk pass, and it's a very difficult one. Chris, you triggered something as well, something you reminded me of early in the season, James, when you and I were at some of the games. We are kind of fairly high up. You see a lot of the runs that Kyogo was making and not getting. And we were thinking, as soon as these guys get up to speed with Kyogo, whether it's McGregor or Rogic or otherwise, we're going to bear fruit on this. I've now noticed it creeping in the last few weeks. Maeda's making those runs. Rogic himself and Hatate's made a few. And they're flagging. And actually there was one on Sunday, I can't remember who it was. He was really frustrated not to get the pass. I think it was Rogic. He'd made the run. And I think once we get a bit braver, I think we're nearly there. See, once this, it's easy to forget we're, 8 months into Ange's time, all that stuff. See, once he's got all the players he wants and everyone singing and dancing, it's going to be a thing of beauty. See,
it gets me excited, right? You make a great point, right? I've noticed it myself as well, just recently with Maeda coming in, and especially with Kyogo, right? More than MD. And I've said it to a few people, I feel as if for us, I call them the superstars. I think Kyogo and Jota are the superstars, and see once it clicks, it's going to be great. We've added since that I'm talking about probably, that was November, let's just say November time, and I said, this looks good. We've added, as I said, Maeda, O'Reilly, to that, Hatate. See, once we get this full thing in place again, this kind of machine running, honestly, it's got so much potential. Again, it's kind of butterflies my stomach even thinking about it, because you're trying to be kind of, I'm not saying you're just trying to obviously rein expectations in, but if you can get that working right, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. It starts, and that's where Ange is trying to say, it starts from the back, right? And so sometimes I'm going right back, I'm talking about Joe Hart. Sometimes you're like, whoa, hang fire here. Joe, I think it's like it was about to be a Hearts game or Aberdeen or probably both. He's thrown balls out again with a 1 goal lead with 10 minutes to go. But again, that's what it is. It's intense play for 90 minutes because it doesn't stop, and that's what he wants to do. And I think, again, getting back to Stephen Welsh, I think with Stephen Welsh was probably a bit unlucky because he has been out in the cold, right? Because he might look at it and go, right, what am I doing wrong? I think Stephen Welsh suffers, and I kind of contradict myself a wee bit here, is because he's no naturally left-sided. That doesn't go for him. Whereas Carol Starfelt's got a wee bit more time when he's no naturally left-sided in order to actually make it work. So I think that's lack of game time for Stephen Welsh, and I'm trying to stick up for him a wee bit.
Yeah.
So, but I think, again, getting back to the whole, as I say, I call it the machine, there is a lot to come from Celtic still once we get these components in place. But I think that as well, we need to continue, they needs to be rotated quite a lot because of the intensity itself. And I think yesterday we've seen a few of those components, maybe, as I said, without going into detail again of these individuals themselves. I think we've got a wee bit to go at that for that perspective as well. Yeah. So, no, good. Listen, all positive. Positive.
Glad to hear as well on this Valentine's Day, you're getting those butterflies in your stomach. That's what me and James are here for, to get you excited and enjoying your night. You spoke about Jota, and absolutely, the guy is a superstar all day long, so let's cover about him. So, James, I don't think there was ever any doubt that Celtic were going to win this game on Sunday, but Q Jota, he enters the fray around about 10 minutes into the second half, and he showed just why so many fans are keen for us to tie him down on a permanent deal. He's a class above, and he also seems to be really enjoying his time at Celtic.
Yeah, he is. And, since you ever started watching football, whatever age you were, players that get you up off your seat, that's football the world over. That's what everyone wants to see, and he is that guy. He's getting some great service as well. The ball from Hatate that he got across to Giakoumakis. But yeah, Jota individually, as much as I would say Ange's system doesn't really promote individuality in any way, shape or form, it's a team unit. Jota brings a lot to that unit. Just by the way he plays football.
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I think it's certainly a team thing, but I think once you get into that final third, you go for broke. I think is Ange's message. Do what you want to do your flicks, tricks and the things that make you unique as a footballer, and that's where Jotas and Kyogos and Abadas and Maedas and throw anyone else you want in that mix. That's when these guys really come to life.
But you see the difference Jota makes when he comes in to the team itself, and I'm talking about from the dirty stuff, like in terms of picking the ball up, bringing other players into the game as well. It's fantastic. As I said, we suffered for that in the first half yesterday. He comes in and he's got his own individual brilliance as well, but he's got that kind of digging in, helping out. Again, Aberdeen, just think about him I thought him and Taylor were brilliant against Aberdeen, how they just got interlinked and played with one another, both defensively and offensively. So he's got it all. I think he's a fantastic player, and it's just, I think we're on the same boat. We just keep our fingers crossed, and you're kind of just checking social media to say, right, is this the day? Is this going to happen? Him and the big man at the back as well. Yeah. So,
he has a special talent. If he didn't, how long do you think it would take Ange to replace him?
That's the thing. I think Ange's got such an eye. He's shown he's got such an eye for a player, but don't be giving us that kind of talk.
I know. You break my heart, Jamie. You're breaking my heart here, no?
I've seen some screen grabs from some sort of Benfica message boards. I don't know what their equivalent of Kerrydale Street or the Huddle board is, but the Benfica boards anyway, and they're cracking up. They're seeing him doing all these brilliant things, not just domestically. I think they've got their viewpoint in the Scottish League, but they're seeing that he's doing it in Europe as well. And one of them was talking about when he ended up in the stands after the late winner that Abada scored against Dundee United, the famous picture now, Jota, King of Glasgow type thing. And they're saying, how has this happened? This is a young homegrown talent and he's excelling elsewhere. My only fear, James, I suppose, in terms of what you were suggesting, is that he may want to go and prove a point back at Benfica. I don't think Celtic are in the driving seat, but if his first love football-wise is Benfica, that might be the pull. But I'm going to remain positive on it. It'd be great to get him over the line because he's loving it here.
Benfica can't stop the deal. It's there if Jota wants it, but Jota as an individual can say, I would like to X, Y, Z.
The player can choose to remain. We'll see. Let's stay positive on that, Chris. I know you look worried about it. So
fingers crossed.
Yeah. Another player who came on as a second half sub and to a standing ovation, no less, was Chris Jullien. This was his first appearance in 409 days. I only know that because it's on his Instagram and he's doing his thing. He likes the old gram, doesn't he? And yeah, he's giving it all the noise about blessed and good to be back and all that kind of stuff we've come to expect. Are you glad to see him back, Chris? And do you think he fits into this Celtic side under Ange?
I'm glad to see the big man back. He has his faults as well, has his flaws, but I think he's a player before his injury that could excel under the style that Ange plays. But you've got to be cautious as well with injuries like that, because it can really knock the stuffing out of you in terms of you might not be that same player again. I've seen it. We've seen it again over the number. Yeah, absolutely. So you just need to take a game at a time with Jullien. As I said, there might be, as I said, we all thought he started yesterday coming in there, but again, the way the games are going to come thick and fast, again, you might find that Jullien might be called upon at some point, and that's when he will really find out. As I said, I think he'll be there in the periphery. I think between now and the end of the season, unless we really, really need him. So yeah, I'm glad to see him back, but as I said, I hope we can get him back to the player that he was before. But as I said, you can't put too much expectation in the guy as well, because as I said, that's a real bad injury to come back from.
Yeah, I think also just very naturally it would take him a bit of time to get up to speed. It's one thing, doing the shift up at Lennoxtown, completely different in a part, in a match situation where you're having to twist and turn and respond to situations and tricky wingers up against you. I actually don't think we'll see much of him slotting in. And why would you? Why would you break up such a solid centre defence pairing? James, you've got your own thoughts on Jullien. Where do you see him featuring?
I think it is that. You don't want to upset that pairing for sure. But he'll get minutes when maybe someone's gone off with an injury or is rested or suspended or whatever. I think it is going to be that himself and Welsh, picking up the sub slots for Carter Vickers and Starfelt. I'm long on record as to what I think of Jullien as a player. I think he flatters to deceive, but what I would say is if you'd asked me Tony Ralston, my opinion on Ralston this time last year, or Greg Taylor, it wouldn't be too positive, and look at what they're doing now. So as much as those two, he deserves a clean slate. So let's see what he can do.
Very fair-minded. I think as well, I think it was you that made the point to me, Chris, a while ago. So everyone talks about, it was Chris Jullien that got Lyndon Dykes' move to QPR. You know, he never impressed as much as when he was up against Jullien. People also talk about Morelos bullying him and that kind of thing. I think you made the point, Chris, that we've got two centre-halves there. So if we do come up against a big physical striker, and maybe that isn't Jullien's game, put Carter Vickers on that guy and let Jullien be the ball-playing centre-half that he definitely is. There's one thing that he does very well, and he gets it very quickly from a centre-half position out to a right winger or a left winger, bypassing the right and left back. He's got a very good, sweeping move to get the ball out there. And I think that's what Ange sees in him, and I think that's what Ange might like about him. And it'd be very interesting to see him and Carter Vickers in a proper competitive game and see how that shapes up.
So I think that was a conversation outside Costa, actually, Tino, we're having a wee brief chat about that.
Thanks for the latte.
That's it. But no, you're absolutely right. I think Chris Jullien suffered to a degree that him and Chris I were very similar players. So what happened, there wasn't that physicality, and that's what Celtic were crying out for probably when Shane Duffy was coming in. We're looking for that no-nonsense centre-half to come in there and actually do the dirty stuff. So Jullien could, again, he was very dominant in the air. Jullien is quite dominant in the air, but again, he is very lightweight when it comes to the kind of the yeah, absolutely. So I think that's absolutely right. You know, you get somebody like Carter Vickers to come in and maybe do the dirty stuff for him, and I think that would be, he is very suited to what Ange wants to play, because he's got a great range of passing as well. Again, there was one of these things that flashed up in Twitter the other day, and it was talking about how we played Aberdeen. It was like 3 years ago, and we beat them 4-0, and there was an interlink, it was interlinking kind of passage of play when Jullien was fantastic. Again, it was just he pinged the ball into the corner, came back, and then he played it inside to Edward, who then goes on to score, and it's just something very similar probably what we see at the moment. I thought that's quite interesting to see that passage of play. But at the same time, as I said, that again is clean slate for him, to be honest with you, because again there's a lot of expectations. It's a different team.
Yeah. I was actually very surprised at the strong ovation he got. I was pleased to see it, pleased for the guy, good for him as a character to, get himself back from such a tough injury. But it's funny, if all you done was went online and didn't attend in the games, you would see this real backlash on Jullien on Twitter. Lots of noise about how bad he is. Then in the stadium, I think the vast majority were really delighted for the guy, and it was probably one of the biggest roars of the day. Actually, it was a fairly quiet day overall, and he gets such a warm ovation.
See, I think Celtic fans are between two pillars right here. So you've got one who are dead against him coming in, the Lyndon Dykes situation. Then you've got people come in think he's going to be Maldini in terms of he's going to come in and he's going to be a fantastic defender. I think he's somewhere in between. I think, as I said, for me, he's great in the air. I think he's great offensively as well in the air. I think we've already seen that as well. And I just think he needs that somebody in there. In terms of, if it's old Chris Jullien pre-injury, he just needs somebody in there to kind of solidify himself. So we can't get too carried away one way or another to say, listen, he's absolutely rotten, we need to write him off. But at the same time, we can't get too excited to say, listen, he's going to be the answer in terms of what we're looking for potentially coming into centre half.
I think there's part of it that just, as football fans, you like to see a guy who's come back from an injury and support him as part of that. I mean, as I say, I'm not a huge fan, but I gave him a round of applause on at the park yesterday. He's been out for, was it
409 days, James,
after he caused himself to get injured.
Not having that.
It's true. If he had any positional sense, he would have done it.
Bathcast caused himself to get injured, but we'll not get into it. We're going to get caught up in semantics. I like the suggestion that he's somewhere near Maldini. I will take that version of Chris Jullien all day long.
So he.
Yeah, so listen, good luck to him. Hopefully we see a bit more in between now and the end of the season, and we'll see how he fits in or not to this Ange system. That said, just to wrap up things on Raith Rovers, all really comfy in the end. Jota inspired. He's turned the screw. He set up Giakoumakis. Nice, cool finish. Maeda's done well to get on the end of a Tony Ralston flick from a corner. Beaton's somehow scrambled a penalty over the line after a terrible effort. Anyway, 4-0 is 4-0, so that's all good. The most important thing, as with any cup game, is that it now takes you into the next round. So quarter-final draw, that's tonight after the Peterhead Dundee game. Others in the draw include Hearts, Hibs, Rangers, Dundee United, Motherwell and St Mirren. James, any preference for who we get? Is a home tie the main thing, or Rangers at home, that's your preference? You don't want to beat them in the final? Nice day out in May. Chris?
Jamie stole my thunder. Yep, home tie against Rangers.
Happy with that. And in terms of the Scottish Cup in general, where is that for you in terms of priority? We've won the League Cup. We're certainly battling hard in the league. We've got Europe to look forward to again on Thursday. Where does the Scottish Cup rank amongst everything going on?
It depends, I suppose, is the answer.
That's not an answer. I need more.
I'm going to give you more. If it was if we had a few points of a cushion in the league, maybe start to put a bit more focus on it and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter because Ange's going into every game treating it the same. So, and we obviously know that from his comments post-match yesterday and during match yesterday.
Yeah.
So, as it gets closer to finals and things like that, it really does start to take on significance because it's a maiden season treble is on the cards for Ange, as you get to it. But you don't want to end up in a situation where you get that and you don't get the league. The league is the thing, and if the cup comes, but it's part of your momentum, great.
Yeah. I know, and you obviously can't foresee what might and might not play out with different things. Chris, 12 more League wins and 3 Scottish Cup wins secures your treble. Am I getting ahead of myself?
When you make it that simple.
That's all it is.
Deep breaths.
They're in a 20-game unbeaten streak in the league. I'm only asking for 12 more. Is that too much to ask, Ange? And 3 Scottish Cup games.
Just keep the fingers crossed, keep the fingers crossed.
Yeah. It's just good that we're talking about these things again, isn't it? James, you picked up an interesting one. We're approaching an anniversary in a week or so's time. Tell us.
24th of February 2021 when Neil Lennon left Celtic and the healing began.
The healing began. It's been a hell of a 12 months since then, hasn't it? Just so much has changed and for the better. I don't want to make this a thing about Lennon, anti-Lennon or otherwise, and I think history will look kindly generally on Neil Lennon. But Celtic have entered a whole new era now, haven't they?
Absolutely. And again, it's Ange. We've got to thank for it. We even look at, again, the concern was getting back to the start of the season, even the kind of scouting department, how we again would recruit players and how the identification and stuff like that. Everything, it's been a breath of fresh air. You look at the recruitment process over these two transfer windows, and you get sometimes, again, transfer windows where they're hitting a miss. You went 2 transfer windows, and it's absolutely frightening in terms of the recruitment we've managed to actually bring in from then until now.
And still doing it, yeah.
Still going through that transition.
I think you said before, Ferguson said if he get 1 and 2, he'd be delighted of his signings, if 1 and 2 worked out, and just hitting something like 9 and 11.
Frightening.
You know what I mean?
So it's brilliant. As I said, they've got a big man to thank for it.
Absolutely. What we'll do now, we'll just take a short look at Aberdeen last week. Again, like all games, we've got a post-match reaction, the final whistle show, if you want to go looking for that. But Aberdeen at Pittodrie, Chris, it's a difficult fixture at any time. I know they're struggling just now, and ultimately Stephen Glass has just lost his job there at the weekend following a poor run of results. That said, they still made it tricky for us, up there. But ultimately, Celtic done enough to get the 3 points. What did you think of the performance? I
thought it was. I think the first half was great. It's always a tough place to go, Pittodrie. And you know what? Regardless of how bad again Aberdeen teams have been in the past, you're always going to get that reaction whether playing Celtic or Rangers. And we did see that in the second half. They put us under a lot of pressure, and Celtic showed the resilience to come back. So I thought the performance was great initially. As I said, we began to tire in the second half, and we showed that resilience to basically to get us over the line in terms of the third goal itself. But there's small margins in football as well. But in terms of talk about the Jota goal, them again in terms of onside, offside type stuff, and that these things kind of make the changes to the game as well. So it could have been different, but again, at Celtic were tested and they came out the other end, and again, obviously got the 3 points. So we're going through a period of time, again, you're coming out the back end of the Rangers game, you've got Fir Park and then going to Pittodrie. They're 2 difficult ties, regardless again how bad Motherwell or Aberdeen were. So it was great to see us that, again, obviously just getting across the line and getting the 3 points, because as you're saying, in terms of the number of games coming up and the potential trebles and stuff like that, 1 game at a time. And again, we begin to see these games that are coming up for us and go, right, that could be difficult. And the Hearts game, the game was one of them. Rangers, Motherwell, Aberdeen, these are all difficult ties. They're all difficult game for us.
You're absolutely right, and Ange is definitely taking it 1 game at a time, and the team will definitely be doing that. We're offski. I'm looking at wee chunks. I'm won these 3 games. And this
two in a row.
Yeah, I'm doing doubles at least. But I think you're absolutely spot on in terms of a lot of people spoke about that run of games there between Hearts at Tynecastle, obviously the Rangers game, Aberdeen at Pittodrie, Motherwell at Fir Park. You were up against all the top 6 and Hibs and Dundee United, wherever they are at this moment in time. And we've managed to come through that 100% record. It's just really impressive. James, I mean, on the Aberdeen game itself, were you concerned when Aberdeen got the equaliser? I know, like a lot of previous equalisers, it's not lasted long and we've gone up and dealt with it very quickly, but was there a bit of concern seeping in at that time in the game?
Less than I have been before. Things like Livy, Dundee United, where it was a flat game and there was no energy and things weren't coming off. I suppose the thing was, and to their credit, Aberdeen didn't equalise and then say, right, we're now going to sit on this. They kept trying to push even after we went in the lead again.
Look what that done for your job, Stephen.
just on that, I think he's been treated really harshly there. I mean, what do you expect from a guy, Stephen Glass?
I don't know. He's ninth. He's ninth in the league,
but
I expect at least 8th.
He's 4 points off of 4th as well. It's tight.
I know. There's a real, tight kind of knit group there, and it's a funny one. It's not like he's come in and taken over Man U after Fergie, but Derry McInnes, I think, done a better job than a lot of folk would like to give him credit for.
Yeah.
He's come in during a time of transition. Yeah, generally speaking, I would like to have seen him got more time. You don't want to see anyone lose their job within reason, depends who we're talking about. But I thought he maybe would have got a bit more time, but the guy Dave Cormack's under pressure as well. He's come in and made a lot of noise, and ultimately 9th, and then getting out the cup against Motherwell. It's just how football goes. You don't get that time these days.
Yeah, maybe. And Barry Robson came in there and then in the interim.
I love Barry Robson.
So I love him. Exactly. I was going to say a real winner.
Yeah.
So he won't. If you think about the training sessions he'll be putting into the Aberdeen players, he'll be running them right through it, and Bruni's somewhere in the mix as well. So it could be what saves their season. What have they got to play for? Maybe pushing into Europe. Maybe.
Yeah, back top 6.
Anyway, sorry. Enough of the Aberdeen exchange. Your question was I worried? Not as worried as I've been in the past, and he didn't have any time to worry about it anyway. So
yeah, Chris, it was another occasion where Jota stepped up to the mark. So that was his 9th and 10th goals of the season. I think he's got 8 assists after that assist against Raith Rovers as well. So brilliant numbers by him, and he's just, I don't know if he's ever had any doubters, but he's just shown time and again how important he is to this team.
Oh, brilliant. Again, as I said, just already touched on it tonight. I feel as if it was more than just his goals he's bringing to it, especially that game defensively with Greg Taylor. Absolutely fantastic, bringing players into the game. I thought the big man was absolutely superb, but he takes his goal fantastically well with both goals, because again, if the first goal you think to yourself, mate, listen, I'm going to get clattered here by the goalkeeper or the defender or both, goes in, touches the ball in the back of the net. So it shows a wee bit of bravery doing that. And then also being in the right place at the right time for the second goal, which was brilliant as well. So
I think as well, there's the obvious things, there's the goals, the assist, there's a tracking back, but he also brings something which is hard to measure, hard to gauge, and it's just an energy. I think he lifts the crowd, and you see him trying to, get the crowd going. He also lifts the guys around him. I think he's one of those guys, and I put Callum McGregor in this. When you're a Celtic player, and you either hear that team or you're lining up, waiting for the ref's whistle at the start of a game, and you glance over and Jota's there or McGregor's there and a few other big characters, I just think, some of these guys have got something about them. Call it aura, call it what you will, and I think Jota's got it in spades.
Yeah, it's presence as much as anything else. Guys are in the room before you see them, kind of thing. He's just got that little bit of magic, and that presence that lifts other players. So
big bit of magic. Ange's mentioned the word relentless in recent interviews, and that's definitely what we need to be if we're going to go on and win the league. We're now unbeaten in 20 league games, so that's 17 wins, 3 draws, which I would say that's pretty relentless. We've not been behind in a game at any point during that 20 game run, and I think that's phenomenal. I think it just speaks volumes, particularly for the Carter Vickers and the Starfelts, about their concentration. Everyone loves to just look at the goals against chart, and I think it's 15 goals against in 26 games, which in itself is pretty good. But there's so much more to it. And see, just in terms of staying switched on and focused, it's a huge part of the success.
It's interesting because if you look at our traditional centre-half duties, they wouldn't be anything like they are under Ange. So you have got that, potential to drift in games that you lose concentration. You can't really in an Ange centre-half position, because even if you're not defending, you're there to start an attack. Yep. So that's maybe contributed to them being so switched on all the time, but they deserve great plaudits, the two of them, and the whole back four and Joe Hart as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it speaks volumes in terms of their aggressiveness and how they're playing right. And I mentioned, again, I hate to reminisce in terms of a year ago, but that's a big difference between where we were then and where we are now in defensively. It's just, we are so aggressive, and I'm not talking about battering people, I'm talking about aggressive in our play. Again, making sure second ball, closing down, winning balls. Again, whether it be coming in for set pieces, whatever else, there is an aggressiveness about us in terms of making sure we're winning that. And so when we win that, we basically recycling the play and moving on. You can see it big time. And again, they don't get enough credit, by the way, Carol Starfelt and Carter. It doesn't matter again.
Quite the opposite, they get criticism.
And they do, actually. Again, I see some parts of the media having a go, for example, Carol Starfelt, by the way he actually plays. But again, when you look at what he does and what he contributes, it's absolutely fantastic. So
I think actually what you're seeing is that Ange's team, they're a reflection of him as a personality. There's a quiet determination and aggression about Ange. He's a very decent and respectful guy, but you just see he's got that grittiness and that aggression used in, the positive sense of the word. And I think that just, flows through his team. That's what's playing out in front of us.
Yep, definitely. That's 100%. It doesn't matter again in terms of aggressiveness at the back defensively. You're right, it's right across the board.
Yeah.
It's midfield, it's strikers, it's about how we're pressing in the right areas. It's fantastic. It's great to see, and it just is for fundamental of how the persona of the guy himself. So again, relentless, absolutely relentless.
That's the key word. To go back to the Aberdeen game, so Jota, obviously the main man, getting the opener and the winner ultimately. Another guy who scored the night, Matt O'Reilly, that was his first goal for the club at Pittodrie. We'll actually be speaking to him tomorrow. I think Paddy's picking that one up as part of a fan media event, so what to look forward to. But how big an impact has he had since coming in?
He's the gap between Ryan Christie and in the January transfer window. Those balls that aren't going through to Kyogo, to Maeda, Matt O'Reilly's the guy that can pick those passes. Hatate can to a degree as well, but he's maybe playing a slightly different position. You've seen it, you actually saw it against Aberdeen. It wasn't just the one that he got through to Maeda that ended up the looping ball and all that stuff. There was several balls because O'Reilly was switched on to what Maeda was up to. So I think that's going to be one of his big impacts.
I don't know if it fits based on the two of them being so similar, but I'd love to see him and Rogic in the same lineup at some point.
Is
that too much for Scottish football to handle?
Double 10 kind of thing.
But just one on the right, one on the left. We usually go Hatate and Rogic, generally speaking, at this moment in time. Could we go Rogic on the right and Hatate on the left? I don't know.
Again, I think it really depends who you're going to be up against. I think it could even work against a team that are going to probably part the bus quite a lot in terms of trying to break down a player, find these kind of
creators.
Yeah, aye. So I think it could work. Again, it makes my head explode when I think about it. Oh, wow. But we'll just need to wait and see how things go in the next couple of weeks.
That's it, but it could be pretty exciting. But yeah, great win up in Aberdeen. Again, I'd mentioned it, just showing that resilience as well. Some of the beautiful football we've seen has been a joy. Sometimes you also need to roll up the sleeves. I think that's what they've done, and they got over the line there in the same way that they've done recently against Hearts. The win at Aberdeen, that was his 7th straight league win on the bounce, and next up in league duty certainly is Dundee at Celtic Park on Sunday afternoon. Some kind of funny stats around them. So they're second bottom of the table. They've won just one in their last 10 league games, but that one win was just last week against Hearts at Tynecastle. So, unusually, they've kind of lost pretty much everything else out their last 9 game. We get them just after they beat Hearts. Will it be a tough one?
I think you've got to respect the opposition, as we've said earlier in the show here, and Ange will certainly do that. Home game, aye.
Celtic Park, 3 o'clock Sunday.
I think Ange will be just really ready for that, and if it's anything, we obviously beat them 6-0 earlier in the season. We are a much better team now than we were then. So unless they are a much, much better team now than they were then, it should be a comfy victory for Celtic.
Are you saying 12-0?
12-0.
That's what I'm hearing. Are we twice as good as we were before? Chris, we beat Dundee, as James mentioned there, back in early August. Kyogo announced his arrival that day with his hat-trick. We also won 4-2 at Dens Park in November. Kyogo got a couple on that day as well, as did Jota. Do you expect it to be comfortable on Sunday?
I do, to be honest with you, but I'm taking every league game as a cup final. Mm-hmm. So there's a pessimist within me going, oh, bite your tongue. But yeah, it should be comfortable. It really should be, because from what I've seen in Dundee, they play a different way from different teams in terms. I keep using the Livingston night, the infamous Livingston. So you tend to find that James McPake team comes out and plays a wee bit more than some of these teams kind of further down the league, and that's entirely up to him how he wants to play it. So, but as I said, it's still, again, every game's a cup final, so we can't be complacent in any way. So just a hopeful, again, it should be a comfortable victory. I do believe it will be a comfortable victory, but again, at the same time, we cannot let, like I was saying about Raith Rovers earlier on, we cannot let the expectation levels drop or these performance levels drop, because that's when it will come back to bite us in the backside.
I think you're right. James McPake's teams, they definitely play a different way from other teams. His Dundee team are murder, and other teams are decent. And that's the whole problem. That's why they find themselves second bottom of the league.
Careful now. So they've binned Cummings and Griffiths, and you might have hungry guys come in.
Yeah.
That might be a positive for them.
The nights out will be less fun, but as a football team, they should be a bit more organised. Chris, just for fun, from the 6-0 game, so I mentioned Kyogo got his hat-trick. Rogic also scored that day, as did Tony Ralston. Can you remember who got the other one?
Ryan Christie.
He got a few assists, I think, for Kyogo.
Name the goals again.
Kyogo hat-trick, Tom Rogic, Tony Ralston, and another.
Nah.
You were there, were you not, was thinking?
Yeah, can't remember.
One Oddson Edward.
All right, did he?
Remember that guy?
See you later.
So yeah, listen, would be delighted with anything like that kind of result in performance this time around. Can I ask you for your scoreline predictions? I'll come to you first, James. Sticking with the 12, or are you going a bit more?
You doing Thursday first?
No, Sunday first against
Just Sunday.
Dundee.
Sunday first, Thursday next. 4-0.
4-1.
4-1. So you know Celtic have only lost 2 league goals at home all season.
I'm only saying 4-1 because Jamie said 4-0.
Just to mix it up.
Mix it up.
Well, that's fair enough. I'm going 3-0.
5-0.
I think we're so comfy at home at this moment. Not comfy. Ange doesn't like us getting comfy. I won't fall into that trap. But I just think we're so
dominant.
Exactly that. So aggressive. And I think there's a real pride with that back line plus Joe Hart in terms of keeping clean sheets. I can't see Dundee scoring against us. If they do, we'll just score another one.
Well, there you go. 4-0. Right, revise it 4-0 because Jamie was. Are you saying 5-0, Jamie? Is that
4? I'm sticking.
Right, 4-0. 2 4-0s then.
It's clear as mud here, guys. I'll go 3-0. James 4, Chris 5. Surely one is will be right. So let's see how that goes.
Money on.
Really smooth there, eh?
Oh, aye.
Just a real slick operation. James, in reverse order. So we obviously looked at Sunday first. Let's go back to Thursday because that's how we do things. So before all of the weekend action, we're back in European action, and it's Norwegian champions Bodo Glimt who were the visitors in the Europa Conference League on Thursday, 8 o'clock I think it is at Celtic Park. James, they're unbeaten since the 12th of December. However, that's only because they've not had any games since that time. They're a summer league, so they don't play during these winter months. They clinched the league title on the last day of the season. I think it was Molde. They beat to the title. You said you'd listen to a wee bit about them then on that podcast that Ange was on this morning. What do you know of them, or what can you expect from them?
So this is the thing. So 24 hours ago, I'm making an ass of myself in the aftermatch saying that we're going to, score a bad load of goals and get the tie dealt with in the first leg. I don't think it'll be that way at all, even if I haven't done just a bit of scant research on them. They play the same kind of football as us. They'll play attacking football, 4-3-3, very much an Ange style philosophy. So they'll come in a wee bit cold in terms of, start of the season, all that kind of stuff. They've lost a few players. That's our opportunity more than anything else, not their ability, not their style of football. It could be something like a 4-3-4-2 Celtic. That'd be my leaning.
I think it's a real plus they were at home first because, as you say, I think they've been in Spain or something doing some kind of friendlies and kind of prep work for this, but they've not played any competitive football since their last league game, 12th of December. They have lost key players. They've lost their captain, Patrick Berg. He's away to Lens Long in France. Their main striker, Eric Botheim, got to Krasnodar. They've lost 2 players to Hibs. Couple of others. They've also brought some players in which I know zero about, so we'll see how that goes. But I just think the fact that Celtic Park on a frenzied European night under the lights and everything we know of being their first game back, they could get really caught up in that rabbit in the headlights type stuff. Celtic could have this tie done and dusted. I'm not getting way ahead of myself, but there's an opportunity for Celtic to deal with this tie in the first 90 minutes. I
think so for those 2 reasons. Change of personnel they've got that I'm aware of. You mentioned Patrick Berger now and also be coming in cold. I think this is a perfect opportunity for Celtic. I don't really see any reason why we shouldn't be getting to win convincingly, to be honest with you. The only thing I would say is that when you look at their Europa League results, there is a few, again, eye-watering results that are in here going, wow, what's going on there? So
they beat Roma or something?
They beat Roma 6-1.
6-1.
Although I believe Mourinho was at it there. There was something to do with resting players for something political. There was something at play.
He's always got something, eh?
But 6-1 is 6-1. Bad teams don't beat Roma 6-1. They're certainly there to be respected. There's people linking them to the Rosenberg sides of 10 and 15 years ago who had some really decent European runs, and they're now that kind of team in Scandinavia. By all accounts, they play good football, and it sounds like they do something similar to us, but Celtic should be capable of dealing with a side like this, and if not, we're maybe not as far ahead in the progress under Ange as we thought.
I think it gives an opportunity. We're talking about the Raith Rovers game of players coming in. This is, again, not to say they expect, again, they're going to be squad rotation quite as much as they've been done against probably Raith Rovers, but this should give players, again, something else to look forward to. And as you say, under the lights, European nights will be brilliant. Again, these should be electric. So it gives us, again, it's another thing probably, again, obviously our main focus is the league, but again, this just gives us something else to kind of loosen, I'm not saying loosen off, what's the kind of term I'm looking for? It just to be a wee bit more, to kind of get the juices flowing, let's just say.
A bit more free flowing.
And that's a bit more free flowing, exactly. And that's the reason why I think it should be comfortable for Celtic, but it's another opportunity. European nights under the lights will be brilliant. It should be fantastic. So it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, just in terms of some of the kind of headline stats about Bodo. So they play, I think it's called the Aspemira Stadion, approximately 8,500 capacity. So it tells you where we're at in terms of size of club. It's an artificial surface, But by all accounts, I was on a Norwegian podcast last week, as you do, and the fella was telling me that it's quite a slick surface, quite a good surface. They have to be artificial surfaces out there because the temperature on the day could be in the region of -6.
It's an Arctic Circle.
So,
It's proper up there.
So get your Under Armour on and your snood looked out. So it could be cold there for the guys. So for that reason alone, let's get the tie done and dusted if we can in the first leg. Another disappointing stat is that, you may know this one, you may be ahead of me, but Celtic haven't won a European knockout tie after Christmas since when?
Is it Moscow? Something like that. Spartak Moscow or something?
Further back. Here's a clue. Lenny was playing.
Copenhagen?
So it was 2004. Celtic beat Barcelona. Alan Thompson got the goal at Celtic Park in March of 2004. We drew nothing each in the return leg at the Nou Camp. That was when David Marshall was performing heroics. Wow. And we got through then, and then Villarreal put us out. That is far too long. That's nearly 20 years.
It's a false stat as well, though, because you need to say how many knockout ties have they played and lost.
Well, that's on us to not have got to more knockout ties as well. And Celtic are in Europe every year, and in nearly 20 years, that's listen, you can dress up stats to do what you like at times, but you can't dress that up. That is there. We've got to, if nothing else, to blow that stat out of the water, we've just got to go and take care of this tie.
Aye, I can't believe that. It's actually kind of knocked me off my stride there. That's the thing about it. I was going back and I was thinking again I was going to say Villarreal, but we played Villarreal there after that. Again, they put us out. Again, that's how far back I was going, but that's incredible. But you're right, I think again the expectation needs to be a lot better. And I think that's especially over the past 10 years. Celtic should have been doing a lot better in terms of these competitions, in terms of Europe. We know that ourselves.
But at the same time, as well, a lot of other things that the media try to load, and shouldn't be rucksacking any other manager's baggage. It's a clean slate, and he's not the guy who's going to be sitting doing anything but blasting through his tie.
These aren't Ange's stats or records, and I think he loves European football. I think you'd made the point, James. Coming over here as an Australian coach, he wants to benchmark himself not just against what's going on domestically. He wants to come up and say we're also as good as XYZ European teams, and I think he takes this really seriously. Just in terms of the tournament as a whole, this is a playoff that would take us into the last 16 if we win. So if we beat Bodo Glimt, other teams still in the mix there would include Leicester, Roma, PSV, Marseille, AZ Alkmaar, who we've played and beat this season,
good
Nervi, Midtjylland, who have beat us this season. Celtic are currently around about 9th favourite at around about 20-1 with the bookmakers. It was 25, so clearly there's been a bit of money on that. Again, I'll ask you a similar question to what I asked about the Scottish Cup. Where is the priority of this? I think Ange just has this up here as well, but where is it for you? I mean, is it important that we start to restore that reputation in Europe?
Of course it is. It just is my kind of fear about not being laser focused on the league, but I don't think Ange focuses on Europe at the cost of league. I just don't think he focuses on any game at the cost of another game. He's like, there's a game, go and win that game. That's all I'm asking you to do. Don't worry about tournaments, don't worry about trophies. I'll take care of that. You go and win the game. So, yeah, I'm with Paddy. Quadruple, please.
I think Ange just deals with the here and now. Whoever you're playing that day, that's your target.
And that's my thoughts on it. I think that it's easier said than done. If you're asking us in the room, what do we want? We want to win the league first and foremost out of anything. But I think it's a game at a time, Ange. It's a game at a time. We just need to see what happens. And that, again, I'm going to be critical of Ange a wee bit because I know I'm going to be critical a wee bit. Sometimes his game management lets him down. I'm using the Real Betis game as a classic example of that. But so I think we need to just be careful as well as we go through it as well. And I think he's getting better at it because he's got more. Again, he's more in his arsenal now. So I think we just a game at a time, and that's where he plays it because the expectation again is up there. You need to be up there, and it doesn't matter if it's Bodo on Thursday or Dundee at the weekend. Yeah. So again, it's hard. It's a hard one to answer. We just, as I said, it'll just be a game at a time, and we'll deal with the situation at that particular time. I think that's all we can do because, especially the league, I'm desperate to win the league. We're all desperate to win the league, but we just need to take it. We do really need to take a game at a time because
12 games at a time.
Yeah. Tell you another thing, Ange wouldn't dare come down to your work and tell you what to do. Don't you do the same to him?
I think he would.
I would gladly get my Ange to come in and shut the door, tell me what to do.
Exactly.
To give you a wee bit of comfort in that as well, there's going to be a man back for the run-in called Kyogo.
Massive.
You're hoping.
Yeah.
Massive.
What a start to come back in. You forget, or you maybe don't forget, that we're in this brilliant rich vein of form, 20 games unbeaten in the league. We've won 8 games out of 8 in January. And this is all without the star man. And he is the star man.
He is. He's a superstar. I keep mentioning him and Jota as being the superstars, but they are superstars. You see what Kyogo brought, whether it be Dundee at the beginning of the season, the cup final, absolutely incredible. And that's him just getting up to speed with the way that Ange wants to play, the way we play, personnel. Can you imagine when this all comes together again between now, again, as things go forward? Doesn't it matter if it's got to see in 6 months' time or 3 months' time or 3 days' time? We are going in this direction where this is all coming together, and he is a key component of this. When he comes back in and it fits in your O'Reillys and your Rodgic's.
Hugo and O'Reilly's a big one I want to see.
Wow.
Yeah.
You need to settle down.
Oh, wow.
You need to settle down.
It's a glass of water.
Just as we're starting to finish things up for the, I need a scoreline prediction for Thursday night.
I'll go for something like 4-3. Yeah, 4-2. I'll stick with 4-2.
4-2.
I'm going to go 3-1.
I think 3-0. Similar to Dundee, I just think we'll be strong, and I think we've got this confidence at the back, so I'm going for 3-0. Chris, what we'll do is we're starting to wrap things up for today. What's your final thoughts? And, as I say, calm down, just breathe, relax, but what's your final thoughts on where we are just now?
It's a great position. Just keep fingers crossed that we keep the momentum going. But as I said, game at a time. We just take it a game at a time. We'll see how things go. We know, everybody knows now again what's expected of Celtic these days, no matter who it's against. So again, we just need to keep the momentum going, and hopefully we can just keep going, and we can actually, as Paddy says, we could do the quadruple. But
just speaking of Paddy, I spoke to him briefly the day. He was in Budapest over the weekend, and he got approached by a fan, inverted commas, a fan at the airport. Are you Paddy for the Celtic exchange? So I was going to say we've made it. At least Paddy's made it, and he's getting the credit he deserves. So photos and everything, he says, all that stuff. James, another busy week in store. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, very much so. As we've touched on in the show, this time last year and all that. So what a difference a year makes. And it's now just, you're at the business end of the season, and it's time to really dig in and for the players to show their mettle. And so far, since we've come back after the winter break, they're impressing us every single week, getting the points, getting the wins, being sloppy yesterday and getting the rollicking and turning it around. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting couple of months.
Sure is. So we find ourselves here on Valentine's Day, and what's not to love about this Celtic side under Ange Postecoglou? We're top of the league, still in Europe, still in the Scottish Cup, and if Ange's recent interviews are to be believed, we're only just getting started. Thanks to James and Chris for joining me in today's show, and of course our thanks to you for continuing to follow and support the Celtic Exchange. Please continue to do so by liking, subscribing and sharing this episode far and wide with your Celtic network. It really makes a big difference to what we do. But in the meantime, and as always, thanks for tuning in.